Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to everyone who's joined in from India. A big hello to everyone who's joined in from outside of India. Thank you so much for joining another LeadSquared webinar. Today, our session focuses specifically for developers and anyone else who is interested in knowing how their developers can help them within their organization. So we are, so to say, expanding the possibilities for developers. Some of the things that we will cover in this session are, of course, understanding the LeadSquared developer platform, how it can help you achieve custom requirements. We will have a detailed discussion on batch jobs, and of course, Mavis and the possibilities that come with it. Now, to take us through the session, we have Surya, who is back from his last session. So those of you who joined our product update session last week, he talked about smart views there and forms, etc. So he is a product manager, and we also have Mangesh, who joined us specifically for this session. He is a senior engineering manager. So thank you so much, Mangesh, Surya, for joining us. Mangesh, you've taken these sessions before, so you know how they go. Please share a few lines about yourself before you take the session ahead.
Sure, Shivani. Thanks a lot, and I welcome everyone. So before I even get down with the main presentation, let me just share the slide and take you through one simple use case. Right. So let's talk about a scenario where we are using a webinar software. Okay. And some common webinar softwares are like GoToMeeting, Zoom, Zoho, BlueJeans, etc. And in fact, you can easily relate to it now because we are currently using GoToMeeting, right? So the requirement is, let's track all the users, their titles, like what position they belong to, and how they are engaging with the entire screen time during the session. Are they reading the chats frequently? Are they vocal on their questions? Are they typing the questions? And things like that, right? And basically inform your marketing sales platform that at the end of the webinar, that these are the highest possible leads, right, with the probability that that are actually interested, and maybe they will convert to an actual customer, right? So what will basically happen is you will basically ask an API from your LMS software, and webinar software like GoToMeeting will push the data to your LMS software. Your LMS software will basically gets an alert when the API is called from webinar software, right? And let's say it is supposed to calculate some lead score based on how the user interacted. So webinar software only gave you top 10 leads, right? To focus on only top 10 leads. So let me further, categorize those leads based on how they performed and how they interacted. And then after that, create a lead in the system, right? And also assign it to the users, to the sales user, by not only just assigning them the lead, but also send them an email or an SMS alert so that they can contact immediately with the lead. And as we know in the sales world, the sooner we contact with the lead while he is interested, there is more chance that you will grab their attention and you can take it step forward, right? So this was a simple use case. Let me take it one further step and make it some more complicated, right? What if the webinar software says if there are tons of people attending your webinar, like 10,000 or maybe 1 million users or 100,000 users, right? We will give you a stat report, but that takes them, let's say, end of the day, few hours to prepare that report. Your LMS should be able to pull that data whenever that CSV or information is ready with them, and it should consume all that data, all those 100,000 records, and they should basically go and create lead in your system, right? Sounds like a entire workflow of lead onboarding. But yes, with this, let me just give you some time to think about it. And I can just give you a hint that people who are developers, they might be thinking that, maybe we'll create a API and we'll write all that logic into that. Whereas the sales folks might be thinking that, if we do something like this, definitely the lead conversion will happen. Whereas the business people, I'm assuming they have gone one step forward and they're already thinking what all other use cases that are very similar to this and they can achieve to close more deals, right? So with that, let me welcome you again to today's session on developer platform. I am Mangesh Tevikar, Senior Engineering Manager at LeadSquared. and my team basically manages the entire developer platform at LeadSquare, right? And I think Surya Teja don't require any introduction. He has already been popular on webinars. So he is the product manager. He handles very key modules and platforms on LeadSquare. And I guess there will be soon a webinar by him on Portal Designer in the coming days, right? So let's get started. So today's agenda, we will basically revisit what a developer platform is. People who are hearing about this term for the first time, we'll just do a quick review of what kind of tools we have developed so far in developer platform, right? And we'll focus on batch jobs, as in how it can help you perform complex background tasks that requires high processing power. Maybe it should be running for hours, and you should be able to generate complex reports, right? Things like that. And followed by Mavis, which can be used as your own custom database, and how it can help you store your master tables or any kind of custom table that you want. And so you'll see some use cases and how we can natively integrate Mavis database with forms and also using APIs. So before we actually dive into the actual session, Shivani, can we have the first poll please, so that I'm aware what kind of audience we have today?
No, Mangesh. So there's a quick poll on your screen. All you have to do is tap the option that's relevant to you. So what is your role in your organization? Are you a developer? Are you a product manager? Are you in marketing? Are you in sales or any others? And if there are others, please specify your role in the chat panel. But it'll really help us with the session today. If you're in a specific, if we see the large majority of you are from a specific role, then Mangesh can sort of tailor his presentation towards that. I can tell you, Mangesh, the vast majority so far, and a lot of people are still voting, but the vast majority are in sales. After that, there are developers. So that's a good number to see. Then we have marketing, and then we have product managers. So still sales is leading is what I can see, but I still want some more of you to really just tap the option. It's as simple as that. Okay, I know that there are people here in product operations as well, so people are responding on chat. But yeah, Mangesh, about 40% or so in sales, about 20% in are developers, then marketing, and then product managers. That's the stat for you so far.
Okay, thank you,
Oh,
Shivani, and thank you, everyone.
I do see some more product managers responding. So yeah, so that's also climbing right now. Yeah. So it's a
Okay,
mixed
okay,
bunch,
cool.
I can.
Thanks a lot, and thank you, everyone. So I will make sure that I speak your language, and in case you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat box, or I will have a particular pause in between where we can take questions one-on-one also. Yeah. So let's begin. Let's start with the presentation and see what developer platform is, right? So high level view of a tenant setup. So when a new customer gets onboarded or they adopt a CRM kind of solution, right? They have a standard set of requirements, a checklist that the platform must meet. And if a good platform is there, they will be able to map at least 90% or 80% of the use case directly without doing any kind of much effort, and people should be get onboarded very easily, right? But in practical scenarios with enterprise customers or even with small customers, we often see that they also use third-party softwares like email providers or SMS providers or their internal system. For example, for a loan management for a fintech company, they will be having their own proprietary software or industry defined software to manage customers and all those things. So you will basically want to integrate LeadSquare ultimately with those systems. And a simple way to do that will be via APIs. So definitely if your system provides, your third party software provides an API, you can easily hook that up as a webhook in LeadSquare platform. So I'm not going to do details about how it happens, but for you who have heard about automations or webhooks in LeadSquare, it is very easy to call any third-party API directly by matter of few clicks, right? So whenever a lead gets created or lead converts from, let's say, a prospect to customer, just notify my software. So that is possible. And similarly, it is also possible the other way around that your system after doing some due diligence, they want to push or update a lead record in the system. So we have public APIs by which you can easily call a API and you can update a lead and do things like that or create activities, right? But this is a basic setup, right? That is a must have. Coming to custom requirements, right? So any software, if you see, right, on its own, it is expected to do some more than what a basic requirement is. For example, let's say I am storing a lead in the system, and I want to update let's call it a parameter called customer category, which you do not define while capturing a lead, right? So as soon as I enter that lead into the system, you want to update that custom category for that lead by reading rest of the lead data, right? So you will basically require somebody to read this data whenever the lead gets into the LeadSquared system or any CRM system, and update based on which category it falls into, right? But it would have been easier if story ended here, but we also require to connect between the third party as well as third party, and when they are sending data to our CRM, you need to massage that data, you want to change that data, or maybe calculate a quality score. For example, we saw the first use case in the very initial slide. We said we'll calculate a score, and based on that, we will then go and update the lead, right? Now, these business logics can be different for every customer, right? Or even customer who are from the same domain, they might not be having same custom logic requirement. So basically, what you would ideally want to do is, rather than calling directly an API that just updates the data, you want to send it to some custom API that changes your data, modifies your data, does your business logic, and then it goes and update the LeadSquared system. So that's how a normal tenant gets onboarded in any of the CRM system. Yeah. So the actual goal of developer platform was very simple: to allow tenants achieve their custom use cases right inside their account, that are first easier to implement. It should not be a big pain to think that custom development will take a lot of time and it is very tough, right? So that should be easier to implement. And the APIs that you're exposing, or whatever the front end that you're exposing, it should be secure, right? So that nobody hacks into your account. It should be reliable so that it is running when you are actually needing it. It should be manageable so that whenever you want to make some custom changes, it is easy to go and change a code and publish it again. And it should be scalable. So today you are dealing with, let's say, 1 million leads per year. 4 years down the line, you might be dealing with 10 million leads per year, right? So this system should be scalable so that it can handle those growing volumes of your business, right? So with that, what we did is we created a collection of tools and independent platform that are built right inside the LeadSquared umbrella, but they are actually independent of your account. What that means is, when you play with them, when you do any kind of testing or any kind of development, they don't impact your main system. And when you are ready, you can actually push those APIs and you can simply plug it easily in your the main account. So you don't have to worry about, do I need to sign up for a separate third-party tool? But these tools are available right inside your LeadSquared account, right? And the basic target audience for these tools to work upon are developers, right? They can easily do that coding and custom stuff, while obviously they're guided by their sales team and product managers to implement those custom or complex workflows, right? But it should be easy by other peoples to monitor them, right? For monitoring, a developer should not be required, right? So that was the main idea behind creating a developer platform. Next up is all the tools. Let's quickly revisit all the tools that we have created so far under this umbrella, right? So first we have custom apps, where you can actually upload any kind of your custom UI page, and it will get published like some subdomain.leadsquared.com, right? So simply focus on your HTML, upload the HTML file or JS file, and it will just be published with a form, right? Second is, obviously, to back a UI or for any custom API scenarios, you need APIs. So for that, obviously, we have the public APIs, which has a direct goal, like update lead. You fire the data, it will just go and blindly update the lead. Or you can create your private APIs, which we usually call as labs. So we have already done a detailed webinar before, so you can go through that. But labs are basically your private APIs that can handle your custom logic, and it can be exposed as an API. And provided there is a time limit of 30 seconds, your logic gets executed in that. So you can hook it up anywhere you want as APIs. Third up is the batch jobs, which we will talk about in detail, that how it can help you solve your background task, some background processing, followed by Mavis, so which is your own custom database, and how you can create your entities. So we'll take that up again in this presentation. And the last one, but not the least, is the caching API. So how we expose a caching layer, right? So that you can have a central source of truth that is quick to access across all these platforms, right? So before we proceed further, Shivani, can we have the next poll, please?
Sure, Mangesh. Uh, right. So this is the question. As existing customers, what are the different tools you have used or you know are being used with your tenants? Is it Labs? Is it custom UI? Is it batch jobs? Is it Mavis or is it Cache API? There was a last option there which we could not fit due to limitations of the number of options you can have. So if you have any other response to this question, please put it on chat. But right now, as existing customers, if you are familiar with this, what are the different tools you have used or you know are being used with your tenants? You may not be using it, but you know that it's being used. Is it Labs? Is it custom UI? Is it batch jobs? Is it Mavis or Cache API? Mangesh, I can tell you that majority of the audience here are saying Labs and custom UI. That's followed by batch jobs, then Cache API, and then Mavis. But then the vast majority are saying Labs. Yeah, then custom UI, batch jobs, Cache API, and then followed by Mavis. I will probably give it like 30 more seconds uh, for
Sure.
more people to answer. But at least we have a clear answer there that Labs is probably being used the most.
Cool, cool. That's very nice to hear. I'm sure after this webinar, you will be get excited to use batch jobs and Mavis more frequently, or at least it will open new possibilities for you, right? So let's move ahead. First, we'll take up batch jobs and how it can help you do background processing. But before we understand batch jobs, some of you are already familiar with labs or a normal API. Let's understand what APIs cannot do, right? Or labs cannot do, right? They cannot execute for long duration, say from few minutes to let's say even 24 hours. They are meant, normal APIs are basically meant to either acknowledge a request or they are only supposed to complete their job within few seconds. That's what API is. They are not meant for long processing, right? And for these APIs, as they are doing quick processing, they don't require heavy, powerful machines or servers to work upon, right? So they don't get that heavy processing power if in case you need that for processing large amount of data or creating heavy reports, right? And also these APIs, you are hooking up with some webhooks or something like that, right? But you cannot schedule them. There is no scheduler where you say that please run this API every night 11:30 p.m. right? So there is no scheduler option for APIs. And obviously, which I already mentioned, is the last one, that they cannot process bulk data or they cannot even get directly data from their main database, from their main tenant DB, right? And they cannot definitely, in that case, play with it, right? So if I simply put in a single statement that an API, it cannot perform tasks that take several minutes of hours to complete, like generate a monthly report or transfer leads from one account to another in case you have multiple accounts on a auto scheduled basis, right? So to tell what batch job actually does is exactly these statements. It can process your data for long hours. It can run for a long time where you can write your own custom logic, right? And it can actually be scheduled on monthly, weekly, or daily basis at whenever you want those long running tasks to be executed. So before we dive into detail of how batch job actually works, let's take up some use cases and understand this in more details, right? Now, let's say you want to transfer leads from one account to another or from your internal system on a daily basis. So you have already a software that you're using, which is your domain specific. And when it qualifies a certain stage, let's say a loan got processed. So you actually want to also update these kind of leads back into your CRM that the loan has been disbursed, right? So this job is supposed to happen every night, say at 2 a.m. So which can take any amount of time. So if you have, let's say, 200 leads getting processed in last day, there will be 200. If there are thousands, there will be thousands, right? So maybe you want to transfer leads or update leads from one account to another, right? And you can also opt to generate team-wise reports. So all big businesses, they are divided into various verticals and teams, and their team leads or managers want to see report only for their team. And these reports are not straightforward reports. These reports may be getting derived from complex calculation, or maybe you are while doing that calculation, you are referring to some internal APIs, right, to prepare that report. Or another example that we can take is, let's say you have a CSV kept in a third-party system or at an FTP location, and you want to pull that data. You have to read that CSV file, and you have to update the lead in your CRM on a daily basis, right? This fourth one is recently we did a implementation of this. Change the lead owner and stage if the lead remains uncontacted for more than a month. So this is very simple statement. There are many other criteria for this, but yeah, this changed the that particular customer life. It made it very easy for them to segregate the leads, right? And coming to the sales folk, incentive calculations for users. So incentive process is again a very complex thing, and people usually want to take out this report, and those reports are not straightforward. So usually what companies do, that they calculate this incentives on a weekly or monthly basis, and they basically shell out those reports to the management or maybe to the individual managers, right? And there might be a possibility, if you have multiple LeadSquared accounts, you want to create a collector report. So there are reports that are available out of the box in LeadSquared. But what if you want to prepare a report with two of your LeadSquared accounts? So they can do something like that if you have a background task processor, right? And last, and which is easily relatable, that you should be able to generate PDF invoices for all the sales order that got processed today. So or it can be the agreements, or it can be some other documents that are heavy and it requires time to generate those files. Yeah. So that is where the batch jobs comes to the rescue. It basically allows you to write custom code in Python, allows your developers to write custom code in Python, right? And there are various inbuilt library functions to handle many of the tasks, like generate a PDF library or things like that, right? And all the developers can easily do local development. They don't have to sign up to an online portal. They can simply download that Python SDK, and they can do the entire development and testing on their local machine. And once they are very comfortable, they can update their batch job. And last but not the least, but they can also import any Python library. So with labs, one feedback that we got is that I cannot import my own Node.js libraries, right? So that is what we have solved with Python, that you will be able to use any of the custom Python libraries that are not directly available natively in batch jobs, and it will not stop you. It will not be an additional cost to you as well, right? Next up, when I'm configuring a batch job, right, I can define retries. Like if it failed one time, shall I go and retry that wrong link job again, right? So that in case you actually know what could have gone wrong, you can handle those kind of things in the next retries, right? You can also specify timeout. So your report might take 2 hours to let's say 6 hours to run, but you have a fixed duration that after 7 a.m. none of the high running background jobs should execute. So you can simply say that I'm expecting my job will complete in 6 hours. So let's have a fixed timeout of 6 seconds. After that, we'll simply terminate the job, right? And after your batch job completes, right, you actually want to get notified saying that my batch job completed successfully, it processed all the data, or maybe it failed because of XYZ reason, right? And post that, obviously batch job has an inbuilt scheduler, so you can easily schedule when that particular job should execute, morning, night, or maybe once in a week, twice in a week, or maybe on every month end. So some month have 30 days, some 29, some 31. So automatically it should pick the last day of the month, right? And it should execute that job and that particular day, right? Obviously, not just the day. You will be able to define the time of the day also, right? And next up, let's say you don't want to schedule it, but you want to invoke that batch job using API. As in, let's say whenever the number of leads get accumulated in your in-house software, or maybe whenever the CSV is placed in an FTP location, you will call a batch job API that, hey, the CSV is ready. Please pick that CSV, process the data, and again, go and update LeadSquared or do something, whatever you want, right? And last but not the least, you get a full audit history of who changed the code, right? And what was changed in it. You can see the entire history so that if developers want to revert their code because of something went wrong, they will be able to do that. Followed by a powerful logging system, you can write all sort of logs in your code so that you can analyze the data, how it got processed in those hours. Now, let me just focus on few additional features of batch jobs. So as I already mentioned, it has a capability to run from few seconds or minutes to even 24 hours, right? We actually calculate how much time it took to run every batch job, and we basically track the usage based on that only. It is not that you are billed or you are actually blocking a machine for entire 24 hours. As long as your job runs, whatever time it takes, that is what will be shown in your actual usage reports, right? And not only capability to call any APIs, it has a native capability to call or to query your tenant database or ETL database. Those who are familiar with LeadSquared internal systems, your data is stored in MySQL DB, right? And you also have a ETL database which we basically populate on a daily basis with some data. So you batch jobs give you capability to directly interact with database so that you're not dealing with latency issues of API or limitations of any API. So let's say I want to get leads who are recently modified in last 24 hours. It can be 1,000, it can be 20,000, right? So an API cannot give you 20,000 units of data at one go. But if you query directly a DB, that will be a great deal, right? You will be able to process that data much faster. And in fact, batch job on the current date is the only tool that allows you to connect to your DB to read data. Okay. And I already mentioned about the SDK that we have for Python. I have given the link. Developers who are interested, they can go and check it out. And you also have version control enabled. So for every code that you push, there will be a version for it, and you will be able to revert to that particular version whenever you want on your own. You don't have to contact us to revert any kind of code, right? Coming to those industries where third-party tools are very strict, and they say that we will not allow anyone to call our APIs unless until we know about the source. And the only way to know about the source is by giving them that our API calls will always happen via whitelisted IPs, right? Via this fixed IP. So especially in banking domain, financial domain, this becomes very critical. Even for one of our customers like Amazon Pay, that was a key requirement that you have to call our APIs using a fixed IP. So batch jobs, whenever a request is going outside batch job as a API call, it will always have a fixed IP. You will get a detailed execution report of each job. And I already mentioned that the key persons will be notified once the job is completed. And let me not just limit any possibilities. If you think that you can code a you can code a business logic in Python on a server, right? That server can be a small server or a powerful server. Yes, a batch job can execute that, or definitely batch job have a basic machine capability. But if your use cases require them to be having more powerful machines, we can provision one for you. So do not worry if your code can execute on a single machine. It can batch job can definitely do that. Yeah. So let's go through a quick walkthrough of how we can set up a batch job. First of all, this is how a batch job panel looks like. You create a batch job. I create a batch job here called daily attendance report. I can simply upload my code. So where do I code? I told you SDK local development, right? So once you have that ready, you can upload that file. Next up, you can set up how many retries that you will require, 1, 2, 3, and after how many minutes or how many hours your job should time out in case you think you have written a wrong code or there is a hard stop for it, right? Then it also allows you to store your secret access key or access key, secret keys, or any kind of keys that are very crucial to your business. So these values that you store here, so let's say I'm calling a finance software API and they provide an access key and secret key, right? So you want to store it in our, because this is hosted inside LeadSquare, worry that people have is, what if your developers go and read that data from backend, right? So I can give you that assurance that these are stored in secured manners, and not even our DevOps or backend guys can see the value that are stored over here. Only you as an admin user will be able to clearly store it in a plain text, which when gets stored is encrypted, and it can only be decrypted when your batch job is actually running in production. So right, so you can be rest assured that you can store any kind of secret keys or key value pairs at this place. Next up is email notification that I mentioned, right? So you can add any kind of email ID over here, and you can say that, notify me when the batch job fails or even for success. So let's say I can add 3 people to this list. 2 will be notified for success, but 3 people will be notified for failure. So failure, I want to loop in the developer so that he can look at it immediately. So that is how you can set that up.
Just interrupting you here, Mangesh. So
Yeah.
Jitesh's question, he says, do we have to put the code on LeadSquared CRM settings or in backend?
So basically, I will answer that question just a second. This is basically the the plugin, right? With this, it allows you to, it gives you an option that I just do an ls bash in it, and you will have a Python program that you can code, right? Once you are done with it, you will simply say, just give me a thing, just give me a second, ls bash.pack, right? When you run this command, it will give you a zip file. Okay, that zip file is basically what you will upload here. Did that answer the question?
Jitesh, let us know if that was clear for you. So I think it was. He hasn't said anything, but if
Okay,
he does, I'll stop you again.
sure. Any other questions we have, Shivani, so far?
Not pertaining to this. People are looking for the
Okay,
recording. Okay.
okay, cool. Next up, I will simply show you the scheduler. So as I mentioned that you can schedule this batch job to run on any day of the month. So there are 3 options in it. I cannot show you right now. There's not a live demo, but a screenshot. But this gives you 3 options: daily, uh, weekly, or monthly. And you can actually, so this currently I've set up monthly, and I can choose any day of the month, even the second last day or the last day. And I can specify time that this will run at this particular time, right, whenever you need it. In fact, not just one, you can actually specify multiple times. It is not that you can run one batch job only one time. You can actually be able to enter multiple time start times over here, so that, let's say for some use case, you want to run it in morning 10 o'clock and evening 10 o'clock, just to see how many people checked into your particular software or LeadSquare system in the night, and how many people checked out. So maybe you want to create a daily attendance report, custom report. So you can schedule a batch job multiple times a day. Yeah. Next up is,
Yeah, and
as I mentioned,
Jitesh
yeah,
basically said we need a plugin for the same.
plugin in the sense I didn't get that question.
So he's, I think, just following up on what he asked. So his first question was, do we have to put the code on LSQ CRM setting or
Mhm.
in backend? And the second one was, so we need plugin for the same. So Jitesh, maybe you want to elaborate on that.
Okay, Jitesh, Shivani, why don't you share my email ID with him at the end of the webinar, and maybe I can directly attend to his technical queries. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But maybe I will just try to answer that once. That plugin is basically installed as an SDK, right? You can write your own entire code, and you will simply get a zip file. That zip file you have to go and upload over here. It's as simple as that. Yeah. And in fact, there is a detailed documentation also for batch jobs. If you go to the API docs of LeadSquare, the entire step-by-step process is mentioned over there in detail. Yeah. Okay. So coming to the logs, this basically tells me that my job was a failure. It ran for 23 seconds. It broke in between, but successfully I executed the job 3, 4 times. And if you go further inside each execution, you will see the entire log history, whatever you have coded inside your particular application. All right. Next up is basically it gives you a notification whether your job was a success or failure. This was a dummy batch job, so it executed only for 15 seconds. But let's say you started the batch job or started the job at 10 a.m. and it basically completes by 11 a.m. So you will basically see that the schedule time is somewhere around 10 a.m. It started and it ended somewhere around 11 or 11:10 a.m. or maybe before that. So this will basically keep you in check that, and you will be assured that the job actually executed and you have got the report that it is working, right? Similarly, the last up, as I mentioned, that you can send reports, right? So I'm using here the same feature as sending the notification email, where it is also possible to send some kind of HTML, so that you can directly send that report. Let's say you with a particular batch job, you're only targeting 1 or 2% from the management, right? In that case, I can actually use those notification system to send an HTML kind of report to the mail. Obviously, nobody is stopping you to create complex HTML pages, and you can shoot those emails to your internal teams individually, right? Okay, so with that, we come to the end of batch jobs. Do we have any questions specific to use case? If somebody is actually worried whether this kind of use case can be handled or not.
No, I don't see anything. And as for the documents that you were saying from API Docs, I have shared those with Jitesh. So
Okay.
hopefully they will help him. But no, I don't see any questions pertaining to use case just yet.
Okay. Okay. And the people who are thinking that we are a sales company, but we do not have developers, don't worry about it. We have an implementation team. The developer platform is targeted towards developers. Those developers can be in your company, so you're free to use them, and maybe they can code with it. But many of the companies who are actually technology driven, they still prefer that our developers do it for them. So even our developers, when they are doing custom development, be assured that they will use batch job for such scenarios, and you will always have access to all those codes. You only have the ownership, and you can go and change the code and make any kind of changes at your will. Yeah. Okay, with that we come to the poll number 3.
Sure. Okay, so this is the third poll, everyone. So do you or someone in your company interact with any kind of business specific Excel sheet that basically acts as master data? So you basically have all your data stored in some sort of Excel sheet. I hope I've conveyed that right. Again, very simply, yes, no, or not sure. We basically want to know if you have a large amount of data stored in an Excel sheet, and that's basically your go-to place to access master data. Again, just say yes, no, and again, if you're not sure, you're not sure. And this doesn't pertain to you, it could be anyone else in the company also. So yeah, I can see 50% are saying yes. 50% of the audience today have their data stored in Excel sheets. About 11% are saying no, and then about the remaining percent are saying not sure, but it's actually over 50 now. It's gone up to 57% are saying yes. I think you have a very clear answer there, Mangesh.
Yeah. So let me just give a clarification on that question in case anybody was confused. So let's say I'm a real estate builder, right? I store people who are interested in buying flats as leads, but I have properties across India. Where do I store information of those properties and information of each and every apartment, building, tower, apartment number, and whether is it still available for sale or not? So those kind of details are actually stored in Excel, right? Or let's say if you are an edtech company, or you are a career school, so then you have courses running throughout the year. So in that case, you store your leads in your CRM, but your Excel sheet basically tells you that these are the courses available for next session, right? And anybody, if and there's any change, right? There's somebody, central person who will be update the schedule, and you will be selling that to your customers, right? So it was something related to that. And to solve that problem specifically, right, we designed Mavis. Okay, so Mavis acts as your custom database. All your Excel sheets and all those things can be stored in Mavis database. I will show you how. And then you can consume those Excel sheets directly in the forms that you give out to your customers, right? Or maybe in your internal business logic and things like that, right? With that, let's look at some more use cases, right? People who are on field, right? So many of the companies have a pin code master. Like this city, there are these many pin codes, and these users are responsible for these pin codes. Or let's say I have a form for my leads. So whenever they fill the city, we are want to ensure that pin code is actually filled correctly. So you don't want user to write that down, but you want to give them a drop down so that they can easily pick a value, right? And real estate example I already gave you. EdTech course master throughout the year and their details, and there might be school master and who is responsible for which school to handle those deals, or maybe the primary contact, or maybe you have a individual custom page using custom UI that you develop, but you want to also show the description. So where do I store this huge web page kind of description for that particular school? I want to show that to my users, right? And for fintech banking companies, you can think of companies master for loan applications. For individual vetting, we usually ask people that you belong to which company. So bank have a list of all the companies for which they are, it gives them a positive point if they belong to certain A, B, or C level company, right? Similarly, there can be city master, credit card master, they are selling credit cards, right? And they are changing those basic data about credit cards every now and then. So they need to have a master sheet where they store this information. And maybe for home loan, they have various kind of calculation defined in an Excel sheet, or there are various categories that needs to be pulled up whenever a custom logic is happening, or you are again showing that information to your leads, right? And maybe you have list of all these banks or institutes, and they are all have representatives. So you want to map those things in Excel, or maybe in your custom database, or you have set of various SMS templates that has to be sent out. Using those SMS has to be sent out, or email templates, right? Based on custom use cases. These are not the use cases that you can directly map into LeadSquare, but they are very specific to maybe some other kind of communication that cannot be achieved directly, right? So sorry for that. So basically, the solution is provision a database where a set of master data or any kind of data can be kept and updated and operated easily via REST APIs, so that it can be consumed in multiple areas. It's as simple as that. If I'm able to store that data in a DB, in a managed DB, and I can consume it using APIs, right? I can plug it to my internal software, I can plug it to my CRM software, forms or portals or wherever, right? Sorry about the pause. So that is where Mavis DB comes to the rescue. It allows you to define a table schema of your choice. So we have this whole lot of data types available as string, integers, even coordinates, right? So you can choose from various type of data types for your table, and you can define your table, and you can group them under various database in case you want to categorize your Excel sheet, or maybe your different verticals or things like that. And to onboard the data, there is a simple functionality of import the data via CSV, or you can continuously push new data or updated data via APIs. And definitely the admin can view the data inside the DB panel. So that answers the question that how you will onboard the data. We'll see in the slides how we can do that. Then you will be able to do bulk operation on them. Maybe I want to do a bulk update, I updated my sheet, but I had a spelling mistake with city Bangalore, right? So I want to update all those records, or maybe bulk updates are coming from external system. Let's say RM for a particular area for all the pin codes, it got changed, right? So should be as simple as calling an API, and it will simply go and update all the data in your table, and your data is continuously backed up, and you can restore from those backups in case you think the data has come wrong or somebody has done some mistake. You can have option to revert your data to a particular timestamp, and definitely you can, obviously it's your data, you can export the data also. As I already mentioned, you can interact with your DB using powerful APIs. And we also have native integration with forms. And that is why we have Surateja with us today. So he will take you to this journey of how you can create a form and how you can consume Mavis APIs. And there is next something which is there in plan and you should see in coming months, which is native integration with smart views. So if you don't know about smart views, it is a custom view for your users so that they focus on only the information that they need to work upon through the entire day, right? So we will allow Mavis DB to be directly seen in smart views. That is something in plan, and that will definitely solve many of the use cases where the DB data has to be exposed to all the users and it should not be just hidden in the backend, right? Following up with the last concern that most of the people have, that it's my data, I need to see the entire audit history, who changed the data, and what kind of changes to table were made, or any kind of changes that are done to your data. It's all audited, and you can definitely see that easily in your panel. Okay, now just some more notable features. So to get started, there are three ways to set up the table. You can use your existing CSV or existing Excel sheet, right? And you can simply import the entire data, as simple as that. Or we have also provided some set of master data sets like pin codes of India. It's a very common table to be consumed by many businesses. So we have given some set of public data sets that are usable by various industries. Currently, that data set is small because Mavis is relatively new. But as and when we'll get more such master data sets, it is very easy for us and to expose it to all the customers, right? Or you have a complete control of creating each and every column and then import the data, right? And the backups are taken every 30 minutes. So currently we do it at 15th and 45th minute of the hour. Like if it is currently 3:15 and 3:45 is when the backup will happen. This happens every 30 minutes, and you get option to restore the data for last 10 days. So for last 10 days, in the gap of 30 minutes, you can restore the data for any timeline, right? And as I mentioned, native integration with forms and smart views and API rate limit. So one concern that we usually see when people are designing database, that how many calls my database can handle, right? I have currently, 10 lakh forms that get filled up in 1 month. Will my DB be able to handle these many queries? Right? So, or maybe down the line, 4 years down the line, it will even increase 10x, right? So will my DB be able to handle queries at that volume? So be assured, there is a basic setup for every new customer, but we have an option to increase the API rate limits or increase the backend for you so that your use cases are met in future. Okay. Let me give you a quick walkthrough of the UI. So this is basically the home screen of Mavis, where I've created three databases: real estate, education master, bank master. Obviously, in your use case, maybe you will focus only on one vertical, right? So you can go and create a new database, and maybe you can create a table, right? Followed by, so I'm inside the real estate tables. I have a project master, project details, pin code master. So project master is where I have stored all the primary name of the properties, and project details is basically details about each and every project, as in how many towers are there, how many properties are there, and is it sold, not sold, or any other information about that particular project, right? And I have a pin code master, which basically I imported from the master data set. Yeah. So this is how it looks like when you go inside, right? So I created this project master, and I have onboarded all these properties, right? So it mentions what is the completion status, start date, end date. These are all dummy names and dummy emails. Don't try to write an email to them or contact them. But these are all dummy data. But you can do all the things, and you can definitely import more data, or you can flush out your data in case you want to start afresh, or you can export the data. Even you can update a single row or delete multiple rows, right? And there is an option to do an advanced search on this particular data. It gives you possibility to search your own data sets with various type of operators. Operators definitely depends upon what kind of fields you have created, right? And uh, so basically for string, equal, not equal, exist, not exist, these kind of things are there. For number, greater than, less than, and things like that. So you can do an advanced search over here. In fact, when we will introduce this particular data set in smart views, we will carry forward these advanced search facility even over there. Okay. Yeah. Going to the next slide. Let me quickly show you how you can create a table. So this is a blank table that I have. I get three options: define table from CSV. So you can simply import a CSV, and it will basically read that CSV, convert all those columns into Mavis column names, and you can further process that data. Or you can select from available data sets, or you can define your own table specification, right? So this is a screenshot where I have basically imported my project master file. It's a CSV, and it obviously there are some limitations over it. That file cannot be 50 MB or so, but we can also support bigger file size in case your use case requires one. And in case you have dates in your master data, you can actually specify that those dates or time or date time are stored in which format, right? That is again a pain point for many people to onboard their data, right? And once you have imported from this step, next comes up that it reads all the data in your CSV. Initially, it will set everything as string, right? But you can go and change what kind of data type it is, right? And you can specify whether I can query on this particular columns or not. So we basically define columns in two categories: queryable and non-queryable. Queryable are the one which you will basically apply filter on to get the data, and rest of the columns can be used as metadata, right? So you can specify on which columns I can query and not, and whether they can be null values over there, or it can be unique or not, or maybe you want to remove some column from the Excel that you imported, right? With that, once I click next, and so it will validate the data and it will finish it up. It will basically tell you that your data has been imported, or maybe it will take some time to complete that request, right? Going to the second option where I can import from data set. So we have given all these data common data sets as an option. So here it is pin codes of India. I can actually go and preview what kind of data it is. So if I go on preview, I see all the data, and you can see whether this data set is actually of your interest or not. And you can also see the schema, as in how these columns are defined in this table. So let's say you want to make slight change in that, definitely import this data set, and then you can go and make those changes. Yeah. And this is a screen that how you can normally specify your custom columns. So I go here, I go and click on edit, or I can add a more column, and I can change a particular behavior of a particular column. So if you're interested in, as in what will happen if a field is set as let's say nullable false, right? That it should always have it should not have it should always have data, right? And I want to change it, but if I change, the data might get corrupted, right? These kind of scenarios will be taken care of when you will toggle this thing and you're trying to process that request. So it will inform if by changing any of the particular parameters your data is going to break. So it will inform you, and all those checks and balances are in place. If you want to know more about the restriction that comes with particular columns, what you can do, what you cannot do, right? Please visit the API documentation that, or the usage documentation that I will share later in the slides. Going to the next section. Yeah, so I was mentioning about the audit history. I can see all the data as in when a particular column was added, removed, and whether it was updated via API or maybe somebody manually updated it, right? And what was the old value, new value? Any changes made to the particular table will be tracked, right? And then there are snapshots that are taken every 30 minutes. So you will be able to pick those snapshots, you will be able to filter those snapshots, and you will be easily able to restore them to whatever date time that you want it to be. Yeah. Next up, obviously, as I say, apart from smart view and possibly in future smart views and currently in forms, you can also consume this data directly via APIs. So if you go to your home screen and you click on connecting via API, you will get this API URL, and you have your personal API key that should be supplied when you are connecting with your database, right? And this API documentation is up and live. You can always go and check out the APIs, what kind of capability or operations that you can perform on Mavis DB, right? So I have given links to all these usage documentation. So I will quickly show you that, right? So this is the API documentation that we have for Mavis API. So it tells you how you can interact with the DB, how I can create a DB using APIs, how it can update a table, create a table. Obviously, maximum number of people will be doing this job via the admin panel, but let's say you want to actually add column, update column via APIs, or you want to do custom integration with your own system, this can be used. Followed by data operation, I can, how do I insert the rows, more than one rows, how do I update the rows, how do I delete the rows, like that. The entire APIs with explanation is over here. And if you go to a particular create table, right, so you will be seeing the code that you can use with that, along with the various examples as in how you should send the data and things like that. So we have tried to make it easier as much for you to become totally independent. But in case you have any questions or you want more use cases to be added over here, feel free to reach out to team. We will definitely be happy to add them. Then there is a public usage documentation that is available, and you can go again check it out, which tells all the things I told in short, right? You will be able to do all this, how to get started, how to use the admin panels, right? How to manage tables. So this entire documentation is there in place. Okay. So with that, we are at the end of Mavis. In case we have any more questions, I will be happy to answer them. And Shivani, maybe we can spin up the last poll for this webinar.
Sure, Mangesh. I am running the last poll for you, which is on a screen now. Do you think you can now replace your Excel sheets with Mavis? Again, very clearly, yes, no, yes, but you need more information, or you're not sure. So do let us know. Do you think you can now replace your Excel sheets with Mavis? And also the documents that Mangesh was showing on the screen, I have shared that on chat as well, so you guys have links to all the articles that he was talking about. Again, do you think you can replace your Excel sheet with Mavis? Yes, no, you need more information or not sure. So I can tell you 42% saying yes, but they require more information. So
Sure.
maybe if you all want to tell us what information you want, or reach out to your CSMs, you have my email ID. You can reach out to me as well, and I will connect you to the correct person. But yes, the large majority are saying yes, but they need more information. 20% are not sure. So about 56 are saying yes, need more info. 20 are not sure. 16% are saying yes, and about 8% are saying no.
Cool.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
very helpful. And I think that opinion will change slightly when now Surya will take over to display how we can integrate forms with Mavis. So over to you, Surya, now.
Yeah, thanks, Mangesh. So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. And we'll get started with Mavis and forms integration. So dynamic forms within LeadSquared essentially allow you to interact and submit data, collect data in various ways, and save them to LeadSquared. This is mostly used by your sales users essentially. Once Mavis, what Mavis DB does is it gives you a good database where you can essentially query through. And with forms, you would like to access this data for two purposes essentially. One is to populate drop-down fields. So you have a drop-down, for example, in the case which Mangesh was talking about, where you have a real estate implementation, you want to go and fetch all the buildings that are, or all the properties that are under construction right now. So you can go and fetch those options and populate them in a drop-down called upcoming, or like my current properties. The second one is like if you have a list of collection data and you just want to fetch the most relevant option and set it as a value. So this could be, for example, as we'll see in the coming example, where essentially in case you have an property selected and you want to fetch the completion status for it, you can just query through the Mavis database. So what does this querying mean? So essentially in the Mavis database, you have multiple rows, each with its own information, and you need to apply conditions on top of them so that you get the exact precise set of results, or a exact row based on if you're populating drop-down values, or if you're setting any field value. So before we even get started, one thing to note is you don't need to create any additional fields for using Mavis DB. You can reuse existing fields. So if you have an existing dropdown, let's say for city, you can directly connect it to Mavis DB, and we'll start populating the dropdowns based on the Mavis DB and not what you have previously configured. Same for set value. So any field value can be selected, and the same type of Mavis DB column can be appended into that. Most importantly, not only is filtering static, you can also filter dynamic. So in case, based on user selection, you can select what is the value with which you're going to filter your Mavis database to get the exact result as you need. In case of populating drop-down options, so if you are, let's say, you want to fetch all the properties that are currently in completed stage, and you want to order them based on, let's say, alphabetical order, or like in case of pin codes, you want to sort them again from an increasing to decreasing order. It is possible to sort the results that you get from Mavis DB, and you can also specify on which particular field they needs to be ordered. So let's say you want to show the cities, but order them based on the states values. So if that is something that is needed, you can even achieve that. And most importantly, so if you have multiple duplicates in particular columns, let's say a very good example is you want to show all the buildings that are available in, you want to show, instead of the buildings, you want to show all the cities where you have properties in. So you just have one database where you have properties, and then I can just select the city column and then apply distinct, so that I only get all the cities that are distinct, so that I can show the users where all I have properties without having any duplicate values. So in the next slide, you can see that this is a temporary form that I have created for this demo. So essentially, field name is the only user input that is not related to, first name is the only field that is not related to Mavis DB. So this I'll just collect in the lead's name, and then city is populated from Mavis DB, and based on the city value, I'll be dynamically querying the building name, which is pretty straightforward. So I just have a simple rule which says if city is defined, go and fetch all the buildings in Mavis DB and populate this as a drop-down. But interesting, we'll talk a little bit deeper into the drop-down aspect a little bit later. But for now, let's see this completion status. So I want not only the building, once I select the building name, I want to see what status of completion this building is in. So as we'll see in the next slide, I have written a rule which says if city is selected and I have even selected a building, I want to set the value for completion status. So here I'm querying from the table called master project. So what it essentially has is, it has a high level view of all the properties that are available with me. So it has the property name, the city it is in, the email ID, the contractor's name, and so on. And once I take the data from there, I just say, okay, I have a column called completion status. So just put the value of completion status against that row in this particular completion status field. And I have even maintained the condition saying like fetch only the values where the city is whatever I have selected and the project name is whatever I've selected. So if you see here, the city is Alto 83 drop down field and project name is mx_profession. The reason is that I have reused existing fields instead of creating new ones from the scratch. So this is the advantage. So you don't need to set up anything. You can just start reusing whatever you already have and just rename them. So how do these conditions work? So we'll discuss that again in a while. So in the next slide, you'll see I have selected the building name. So I automatically have the completion status as in progress. So within the form, I have actually written a rule which says like only if the completion status is in progress, show me the towers, the floors, the minimum carpet area, and the select flat. So quickly, all of these values. So as I mentioned, first name is the only one that is not linked to MavisDB. So city is populated via MavisDB on the rule saying I have set a default value so that whenever a form loads, set the value as load the MavisDB data and set it into Bangalore. And then for building name, I have written a rule like whenever a city is set the building name. Same for completion status I have shown earlier. Whenever both city and building name are defined, just set the completion name. Same steps follow for tower floor. So based on the building name, I fetch the towers that are available, floors that are available. So this minimum carpet area is a good example. So in the next slide, we'll see essentially how I have configured this rule. So I have set options for available flats. So I want to show to my leads or like to the sales user what all flats are available, which meets the criteria of a particular lead. So I have already discussed like in this, if you notice, we are querying from a table called project details. So it's not project master. So we have gone into project details. So essentially we want details of a particular project. So I have the project name, which is fixed now. Then I have shown the towers, which is also selected. The floor is selected. And now I only want to show the flats which are not sold out. So I have set sold out as false, and carpet area is greater than or equal to whatever is the minimum carpet area requirement of the lead. So can we go to the next slide once? So the way to configure this is when you hit on update, you will see this pop-up open up, and here you can configure everything. So if you, there are two options, select all, which shows and there is select any, it will show you or option. So you can have tower is A or B, floor tower is A or floor is 9. You can filter accordingly as well. In this case, it essentially just how the configuration happens for the rules we have set. So the carpet area value is dynamic. So if I hit in 1500, it will show me a different set of values. If I hit in 1200, it will show me a different set of values. If I hit 2000, it will only show me the flats which have a carpet area of more than 2000. So all of those values get updated dynamically and fetched from the Mavis DB, which will sync whenever there is a change at your end, so that all of the data is fresh for your sales user to use. And I have also sorted these flat numbers on how I'm showing them. So I want to show them in the ascending order. So essentially, I want A1, A2, A3, A4 like that. And that about, so we also have distinct values. So again, as I mentioned, a good use case. So if you want to show all the cities you want your properties in, you just select one particular table, which is the master details, sorry, project master, and then just filter out on the column and apply a show distinct value. So what it will do is it will select the particular cities column and then only show the distinct cities so that you can click through. And then you can have probably next step where you have show projects in the city, which will only filter out the projects you have in that particular city. Again, you can mail merge the values and this process can go on. So yeah, I think this pretty much covers forms and mails DB. So we have made it very simple to access data from Mavis DB to, again, to just to reiterate, two purposes, which is like you can generate drop-down values or you can just fetch data and put them in the field so that the user needn't do anything. This can be further extended not only for this, so it can also be used whenever you have product across multiple categories. So you can have one product master, which gives you very high level details, and then product details, which gives you a finer detail. So in case your sales user is not currently sure on what the pricing is, he can just select the product and we'll fetch the latest price available and show it to them. Yeah, I think that is it from my side. Back to you, Mahesh.
Thanks, Surya. That was really insightful. And I'm sure there will be new customization that will be happening in forms in coming months. And we will cater more and more complex scenarios in the coming months. So thank you, everyone. That was all from our side. In case you're an existing customers and you want to venture out more in the developer platform, or you want to try out the new tools, please contact your account manager. For folks who are not yet customers, but definitely they are now interested, so they can definitely revisit our help page and definitely sign up a trial account, and you will be assigned an account manager and they can help you set up the developer platform for you. Okay, that's all from my side. Shivani, do we have any more questions?
We don't have any more questions, but I know a lot of people have been asking for the recording, so don't worry about that. The whole session has been recorded. I even got emails just now from people saying specifically, please do share the recording, so which you will get very soon. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much, Mangesh and Surya, for giving us your time and taking us through the platform here, and of course, giving us a sneak peek into the developer platform. I shall come back to you if there are any further questions that we need your insights to deal with. All right, thank you so much. Just a quick note to the audience here. Now that you had a product update session last week, this week rather, you had it on developer platform. Next week, we will be discussing the latest updates to the mobile application. And then I think the following week we'll be talking about portals. So stay tuned, look out for my email, and that's how you can join the session. I am going to close the session now as we are slightly over time. Thank you so much for joining in. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.